says here the WNBPA is still waiting a response to a proposal. And the WNBA just did what the PA did have done. They went to social media, they went through a journalist. They literally they decided and just said, you know what? It doesn't really matter. Like, they're trying to win the court of public opinion.
Strategically, the league's silence carries a very specific meaning. In negotiation theory, refusing to respond is one of the strongest signals you can send. It implies that the proposal isn't just unacceptable. It's not even worthy of engagement. The message is blunt. We are not close. We are not negotiating within the same reality. This tactic forces the other side into a dilemma. Do they double down and risk escalation, or do they soften their stance to reopen dialogue? Either choice involves loss. That's why this moment resembles a classic game of chicken. Both sides speed toward conflict, waiting to see who swerves first. The league is making a calculated bet that the players need an agreement more urgently than ownership does. Without a deal, players face delayed seasons, lost income, and career uncertainty. Owners face inconvenience and bad press, but little immediate financial pain. That asymmetry matters. It's the foundation of the league's confidence. By waiting, the league also tests internal unity within the Players Association. Prolonged silence can expose cracks. Some players may prioritize stability over principle. Others may fear that pushing too hard risks losing gains already made. Time magnifies those divisions, and that's the uncomfortable truth. Leverage doesn't always belong to the side with momentum or public sympathy. It belongs to the side that can absorb delay. The league believes it can. The players must now decide whether they can, too. Silence in this context is not passive. It's aggressive restraint, and it's designed to force a choice, either retreat voluntarily or escalate the conflict to a point where consequences become unavoidable.
The league gave a bunch of proposals, and the WNBA one, they believe that what the players have asked for is so crazy that they're just not responding. WNBA finally came to terms with the fact they're dealing with a bunch of business. I don't really care. Like, at the end of the day, whatever you want to say about these players, if they are able to get they have already bumped them up the max salary in as far as WNBA offers from $800K, which was what it was in November, at the start of November.
On paper, the players' aggressive strategy has already delivered results. In early November, the league increased the maximum salary from roughly $800,000 to $1.3 million, a jump of $500,000 in less than 2 months. That doesn't happen without pressure. Going public worked. Creating urgency worked. Challenging the league's comfort worked. So the question becomes, why stop now? From the player's perspective, escalation has been rewarded. Each bold move has produced concessions. That success, however, carries its own danger. There is a fine line between effective leverage and overreach. Push too gently and you're ignored. Push too hard and you risk triggering a shutdown instead of compromise. This is where emotion can quietly undermine strategy. Tensions with Commissioner Cathy Engelbert have been building for months, and personal frustration can easily blur judgment. When negotiations become about proving a point rather than reaching an agreement, outcomes suffer. Winning the public narrative feels good, but public support doesn't sign contracts. The real risk is misreading the opponent's pain threshold. Ownership has already shown willingness to concede on salaries, but revenue sharing at this scale challenges deeper structural assumptions. If the players assume momentum guarantees victory, they may underestimate how far the league is willing to dig in. Every negotiation reaches a moment where restraint matters more than force. The players are approaching that moment now. The gains so far are real. The leverage is real. But so is the risk of pushing past what ownership believes is achievable. The question isn't whether the Players Association has power. It does. The question is whether it knows when to convert that power into a deal before silence turns into stalemate.
The players is that the only questions I have is, one, are they letting the personal biases against Cathy Engelbert in Fee's case negatively harm the negotiating position? And two, is there a time where they realize that they might be flying too close to the sun and cave to what the WNBA are offering? Because at the end of the day, this is a game of chicken. This is a game of chicken. Because this isn't like the NBA lockout of the last time there was one. Isn't like that. This is genuinely one of those ones where this is
It has been 2 full weeks since the WNBA Players Association formally submitted its proposal, a demand for 30% of gross revenue paired with a $10.5 million salary cap. Since then, there has been nothing. No contraproposal, no scheduled negotiating session, no public acknowledgement beyond carefully worded statements. Just silence. And that silence is not accidental. It is deliberate, strategic, and revealing. In negotiations like this, what isn't said often matters more than what is. Right now, the league's lack of response is speaking loudly about where it believes the balance of power truly lies. This isn't a stalled process or an administrative delay. It's a calculated pause designed to send a message. By refusing to engage, the league is signaling that it does not view the players' proposal as a serious starting point for discussion. Silence becomes a tool, one that shifts pressure onto the other side. Instead of debating numbers, revenue definitions, or timelines, the league is forcing the players to sit with uncertainty. That uncertainty creates anxiety, and anxiety is leverage. From a league's perspective, time is an ally. The longer negotiations drag without progress, the more the burden shifts to players who rely on contracts, salaries, and season certainty for their livelihoods. Ownership, by contrast, can afford patience. Arena leases, sponsorships, and long-term media deals don't disappear overnight. Players, however, face careers with limited windows and income streams that depend on games actually being played. This moment exposes a core reality of labor negotiations. Leverage is rarely about who is morally right. It's about who can endure discomfort the longest. By going silent, the league is testing whether the Players Association truly believes in its number, or whether pressure, doubt, and public fatigue will eventually force a retreat. The message is simple but brutal. If you want movement, you'll have to make it first. What we are watching is not a breakdown in communication, but a power play. And power plays only work when one side believes the other cannot afford to wait. The league is betting that this silence will crack resolve before it costs ownership anything meaningful.
Anyone for nothing to happen. Both sides need something to happen. And both sides at the same time don't. One side wants to make as much money, the other side wants to. Both sides want to make as much money as possible. It is at the stage now where this is the WNBA, is the hand they're playing in this game of chicken. This is the hand they're playing. And that they're not responding and seeing if the WNBPA, instead of coming back with a counter offer, seeing if the WNBPA come back with a counter offer themselves, which they're probably going to counter offer and go slightly under it to eventually.
Behind the scenes, the dynamic has grown even more ironic. For months, the league criticized the Players Association for negotiating through social media and friendly journalists rather than strictly at the bargaining table. Officials accused players of leaking selective information to shape public opinion, arguing that this tactic undermined good faith negotiations. The league positioned itself as the responsible adult in the room, committed to professionalism and process. And then almost immediately after receiving the players' proposal, the league did the exact same thing. Instead of issuing a formal counteroffer, the league allowed reports to surface through media channels claiming that the 30% revenue demand would cost ownership an estimated $700 million. That figure wasn't delivered in a negotiation session. It wasn't part of a documented response. It appeared in headlines. That matters because once numbers are introduced through the press, the conversation stops being about compromise and starts being about perception. This isn't collective bargaining in its pure form. It's narrative warfare. By framing the proposal as financially catastrophic, the league is attempting to anchor public opinion before any actual negotiation happens. If fans believe the players' demands are unrealistic or reckless, the league gains moral cover to stand firm or walk away. The irony is hard to miss. The very tactic the league condemned, using the media as leverage, is now central to its strategy. And the result is a standoff where neither side is truly speaking to each other. Instead, both are speaking past one another, addressing the public as an indirect weapon. This approach carries risks. Media-driven negotiations can harden positions instead of softening them. Once numbers are framed as outrageous, it becomes politically difficult to compromise without appearing weak. Still, the league seems comfortable with that trade-off. Why? Because public opinion pressure weighs heavier on players than on ownership. At this stage, the negotiation has shifted arenas. The bargaining table has been replaced by headlines, leaks, and carefully planted narratives. And while that may feel chaotic, it is anything but accidental. It is strategy, just not the kind anyone admits to using.
It is one of those things where it's like, 2 weeks. They haven't spoke to the players in 2 weeks. So now you've obviously got the players talking. The players are now coming out saying they think something's going to get done. I think this is, again, I don't know what's going on. This is my prediction for what's going on. That the league, who have been constantly arguing, that the players are using social media, that they're not arguing in good faith, that they're lying, they're trying to get the public, they're trying to use the public in their negotiations, and